G'day folks, well, for this afternoon's little quick inspection and possibly test if it looks good. And that bug just died. Damn bug zapper always interrupts me. Yeah, I found this at the scrapyard. It's a Luxman L235 amplifier. Definitely not as big as the L430 that I repaired for my supervisor, but it is still a it still accepts 4 speakers. I was expecting it just to be a dual 2-speaker 2-channel amplifier, but it's just a smaller version of the 430 by the looks of it. Not sure if it's a Class A, but it's well, it's a Luxman, so it's got to be pretty good. I haven't looked them up on the net yet, but this one just looks like it's been sitting around for a while. It is fairly beat up. The front fascia's got nasty big dings in it, and I'm hoping the potentiometers aren't smashed. But it should be okay. It has been rained on, so I'm going to open it up, make sure it's all dry, and make sure there's no foreign debris in there, because it has been tipped out of a bin at the scrap metal yard. That's why it's all beat up. But if it works, it should still sound good. That's all I really care about. Anyway, I'm going to get the cleaner out, cover off, all that sort of stuff, give it a really good clean up, and have a bit of a gander inside, see what's going on. I wonder if it's actually the same sort of problem that Terry's amp had, which was blown main DC capacitors. Who knows? It might work fine, actually. It might have just been in storage, someone's garage for a while. I mean, looking at the garage dirt that's built up on it, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if it was maybe someone's grandfather's old amp and he must have passed away. Maybe they put it into storage, who knows. But it's odd that the cabinet screws are partially removed, so that might not be a good sign. They've been in it and realised something bad, but I don't know. It's a Luxman. It's worth fixing regardless. I've still got a Sansui and a couple of other old amplifiers to look at too. We'll get to them once I get through the other backlog of stuff. I just want to have a quick look at this and whether to put it in the for later pile or clean it up and put it straight into service. Okay, well it looks pretty good now. I've given it a bit of a clean. The front panels come up okay, apart from some of the dings, but I'll just take those sharp burrs off and they'll be fine. Haven't powdered it up yet, of course. I noticed looks like there was a bit of water coming out down here. Either that or it's capacitor juice. It could be, because it's coming from underneath that the main DC grain silos there. 10,000 microfarad, 50 volt each. Pretty decent. I think the other ones were bigger though. The ones out of Terry's amplifier were huge. I think it was 63,000 microfarad or something. Obviously no, 63 volt, but what were they? They were 20,000 microfarad each. They were pretty decent. It was a much bigger version of this. This is slightly newer, perhaps. It has the feature of AV selector on the inputs, whereas Terry's one was always, it didn't have CD, it didn't have AV, it was all phonograph and everything, so his must have been much older. This probably isn't the same power rating, but very close, just a slightly newer version, but the same technology. The boards and everything are all the same componentry. And even if these knobs did get bashed, the whole front panel flexes enough that it takes the brunt of the force. It doesn't damage the selectors, so that should be fine. I'll just clean these potentiometers and we'll clean up any mess on the board, and away we go. I'll take the bottom off too and have a look at it. Possibly even remove these two and just see if they are leaking. It's interesting that whatever that is, I don't know if it's water. Yeah, it could be electrolyte. We might have a capacitor issue, so let's turn it over, take the bottom off and desolder those 2 caps. I'm curious as to what that is spilt in there. It could have come from something at the scrapyard leaking into it, or it could be out of the caps. Okay, just going over the web. This is the one that I repaired a while ago. Again, 1981-ish, like early 80s. They're not too far apart. The L235 is still, well, the article I was looking at said at 1984-85, so it's as old as I am. I was born in 85, so that's pretty good technology. Again, I haven't powered it up yet, but still, with no smashed boards or any major damage to it, it's definitely worth repair. I found one for sale in Canada for $235. Wow. They've got to be worth it. That's another thing I should do. I see what they look. See if anyone's selling them on eBay or Gumtree. I bet you these things are worth a fortune. I know anything Luxman's pretty good, but yeah. Definitely not in for the money though. I want to fix this up and use it. I like vintage amplifiers. I've got plenty of tape decks and equalizers and other things like that, but amps, decent amps, a bit hard to find. I've got a lot of the cheaper ones, still good vintage technology, but the cheaper amplifiers, but Class A stuff is probably the best thing. Okay, one thing I didn't mention before, and I did originally notice immediately, was there's a couple of Zener diodes on the top of the board that have gotten quite hot. Now they're badly dry jointed, like the solder's cracked away at the base. That could be part of the problem, or the diodes themselves could be shot. There could even be a short taking them out. Again, that's where power up comes into it. I just wanted to make sure what that gooey stuff was. And if the caps were leaking, the first place I'd find it's probably under here, but there's nothing there. Like, that's where you'd see it. It'd be on the bottom tin cover, and there's nothing there. So I'm going to get some contact cleaner and clean around it. Run the soldering iron over a few dodgy solder joints, just like the L235. That had plenty of them. Even though it's decent Japanese tech from the 80s, again, decent Japanese TVs from the 80s, a lot of them suffered from lots of bad solder joints, especially with the amount of heat that built up on some of those old modular Philips TVs with the cards that slot into the little rack mounts. I was forever resoldering those. You'd get some come in and you'd spend a whole day just going over it, finding little things like that and that, or just reflow the whole card, because they were just terrible. So yeah, 80s Japanese technology, even though it's good lead solder, sometimes it's a little bit thin, and where you've got thermal expansion of hot components or components on heat sinks, yeah. But you can see these are all hand soldered after the board's been flowed in the tank in production. And there are some, looks like reflow jobs in here too, so they probably recapped or repaired it once before in this section. But again, very nicely made. Potentiometers are fully accessible for cleaning spray, so that'll get a full clean. It's not loose like the one on Terry's, which had been probably severely whacked and pushed back, so the contact was losing contact with the carbon trace on the circuit board. That was just a simple case of taking it off and re-crimping it. But yeah, if you can wiggle it and it works or something like that, don't always throw the pot out. Just take it off and re-crimp those little tags, because I've seen it so many times. You bump the amp in transport and it pushes the case of the potentiometer apart, and you just lose contact with the carbon trace momentarily. Sometimes it'll come good again, or it'll come intermittent. Yeah, don't always write them off. They're not always worn out. They've just lost contact. So anyway, enough rambling. Let's keep working. I want this baby to work. I guess one thing to note between the 235 and the 430 is half as many semiconductors, like the main ones. So that's the one thing I've noticed. There's nowhere near as many semiconductors. It's definitely not as heavy. I'll give it that much. That 430s are a tank. You basically need a forklift to pick the damn things up. But this thing is nowhere near as bad. But I'm sure there are much bigger amps out there. I've seen some good quality amps and they weigh a ton. It almost takes two people to move them. Alright, well, we've got some test speakers on it and it's plugged into mains. I guess we better turn it on. I know some of you probably been telling me to plug it in already, but, well, if it hadn't been dumped out of a bin and subjected to rain, I probably would have already plugged it in by now, but, you know, you've got to be fairly careful, especially with expensive equipment like this. So we'll turn on the mains and turn on the amp. No lights. No, maybe one of the lights is burnt out. No nasty hum or anything from the speakers. That's always a good sign. If I was getting a 50 Hz hum or something through it, I'd know there was an issue with the caps or something like that. I just need an audio source now. Yeah. Indicator lamps are on. It's just some of these actual neons or whatever they are dead. I'm going to replace them with LEDs. That one's got a green sleeve over it, so I can get a green LED. I just have to work out what voltage they are. Yeah, there they are coming off there. It's easy enough to rework. Same with the volume indicator. Probably like 5 volt or 6 volt incandescents. Little baby things. It's generally low voltage in these things. High voltage is in there, switch, fuse, that sort of area. That's dangerous. Over here, not so much. Don't hold me to it though. I don't know if any amplifiers do run high voltages on the main boards. This one here would probably be about 40 volts or something at the most. 24 volts or 5 volts for control, 24 maybe for the higher voltage sides. Not too sure, but generally pretty safe to work on. So yeah, where's the source? I'll get me test DVD player out and see what happens. Okay, well it works. I'm getting a bit of staticky noise at high volume out of bank A, but B seems to be alright. I'm going to blow those poor speakers. They're only cheap ones out of the Toshiba DLP television, but still they can pump out some noise. Yeah, I like it. I'm thinking that cooked Zener diode has something to do with it. That one there, just next to the second fuse down there, doesn't look as healthy as that one. Mind you, they're both probably pretty crook. But either way, it's good. It works. But yeah, a bit of a staticky crackle from, or hissy crackle from bank A when I crank it up. So anyway, that's fun. I got my first Luxman. Hopefully one of many. I like Luxman stuff. Just got to finish tidying it up, and hopefully some of you have a bit of input on what might do it. I'm going to try and I'll figure out what that diode is. I'm guessing it's just a standard Zener diode, but I'll replace both of those. If anyone thinks there's a more outstanding issue, just let me know. It could be an output transistor issue if it's failing, but don't know. Seems to work alright, especially when it's warmed up. A lot of the crackle goes away, so it could be a semiconductor issue. Certainly sounds a lot smoother than the old Akai AA1040 that I have up the back. That's still a decent amplifier. They still sell for about 120 bucks each on eBay. I had a quick look for the old Akai stuff just out of curiosity, and a lot of people are charging well over $100 for these old solid state tuner amplifiers. This is a dedicated amplifier, but still Luxman just commands a price because of I guess audiophiles love them. Vintage audiophiles. Anyway, that was fun. Thanks for watching. Okay, well overall I found that playing with the selector switch helped get rid of some of the crackle, but we'll find out for sure when I run it cold again. It's only lukewarm, but it's actually warmed up, given how cold it is tonight. But I don't know, I'll do another test tomorrow and just find out for sure. Run some contact cleaner through the selector when I get some more. That's the one thing I didn't have enough cleaner to do. That I'll just cycle it a few times. It's basically all I did, is just cycling through it, and some of the channel noise went, so that's my candidate for repair. Everything else works fine. Yeah, had it cranked up fairly well before and not a problem. So it should be a good runner if that's the only issue. I'm curious about those Zener diodes, but again, they probably just got a bit hot during a party one night, and that was about it. Like someone had it pegged, and yeah, she got a bit warm. But either way, I'd say this thing just hasn't been used for a while and needs a good clean. So I'll go through and clean all the selector switches and things again. Clean all these little ones down here. I'll try and get a can with a straw on it so I can direct it down into the switches themselves instead of hosing everything. The residue on the board was flux residue. It's the back half of the board, or part of the board up here, wasn't properly cleaned on the underside, and up here there was also a lot of flux residue. So the board itself wasn't properly washed at the factory, and that's what a lot of that residue was. So it's nothing nasty. It didn't get leaked on by anything at the scrap yard. It's just solder flux residue that was just a bit sticky. It's probably absorbed a bit of moisture or something, maybe, I don't know. There's no sign of corrosion or other issues, so it should not absorb moisture, I can tell you now. It was just sticky, so it's all good. Should be a really nice amplifier. Thanks for watching.